My name's Jeff Wrigglesworth. I'm the current owner of the Knob Farm. Farm's been in the family for, my grandchildren will be the 7th generation. The farm originally was part of the Henry Boone tract, as was most of the ground around here. And the first owners were Jonathan Wallen and his sons, Thomas and Elijah. And that was in 1840, they bought it. When Jonathan died in 1855, Thomas became the sole owner. And he had it until 1862, and a Thomas and Susanna Hoover bought it. Then in 1864, their daughter, Catherine, married Elisha Davis, and they got the farm. And that's the Hoovers was actually when the family started. I found out last night when I was doing things, though, that the Thomas Wall married Elisha's sister. So it actually puts a few more years onto the ownership of the farm. As I said, Elisha got the farm in 1864, and he pretty much cleared it and developed it. There was a log house and a log barn here when he got here, but he built the farmhouse down here now in 1878, and this barn was built in 1882. And just over the years that he was there, this is a list of the little buildings they had. It's kind of a neat thing. It was a house in the barn, of course, a buggy shed, granary, corn crib, outhouse, ice house, smokehouse, apple cave, pig pen, chicken coop, spring house, wash house, coal house, kettle place, and a sawmill. That was just a typical farm back in the late 1800s, had all those different little buildings. He had the farm through the 1920s. He had a son, Will, that was going to take over the farm, and that was in the latter part of the 1800s. And he and his wife and Elisha couldn't get along, so he left for Troutville. And Elisha was he had some younger sons, but they didn't have an interest. So coal was found on the farm during World War I. Elisha kind of didn't have to farm. He sort of became a gentleman farmer. And he sold it to my grandparents, Clara and Hilda Wrigglesworth, in 1926 for $6,000. But the last few years of Elisha's life, he spent, he was a granger, and he was involved with the Quaker Church. And he spent a lot of time traveling with those two organizations. When my grandparents got the farm, it was during the Depression. So they had a hard time paying for it. But to pay for it, they sold cream, butter, milk, eggs, baked goods in Clearfield. They made a trip every Saturday to Clearfield to sell their baked goods to get the farm paid off. They had 7 children. All of them finished high school. And this is sort of an interesting thing. The 2 oldest ones, they went to high school in Clearfield. They left the farm here at 6 o'clock in the morning, walked to Grampian and caught the train, rode the train for an hour to Clearfield, got there at 8, went to school. Then after school, they had to walk to the train station again and caught it at 5, got back into Grampian at 6, and then had to walk home. They really wanted an education, I guess. So. But my grandmother died in 1950, and my dad Bob and my Uncle Joe went in with my granddad Claire, and that's when we started the dairy business in 1950. And we sold milk to Sanitary in Kerwinsville, Miller Dairy in Clearfield, Clearfield Dairy in Clearfield, and then V.T. Smith in DuBois, Beaver Meadow Creamery in DuBois, and then the last few years, the last 30 years actually, we were with Gallagher's. Um, whenever I got out of high school, my mom and dad and I worked for the next 30 years and, well, 20 years until my mom died at, you know, improving the farm. And um, then my daughter came along in 2008 and we continued with the improvements. Dad sort of retired, but she and I were um, setting the farm up for the next generation because her one child was very interested in farming. And that's when the bottom fell out. I had a slight accident June the 15th of 22, and the recovery from that accident was going to be 6 months, and my daughter had 4 young children. So we made a decision to sell the cows and exited the dairy business for a little while. However, it was in our blood, and we started what's called a micro dairy, where we milked just a few cows and sold milk locally. And we were able to get back in the dairy business and, you know, keep things going. And that's where we are today. The creamery is just, like I said, we milk 10 cows. We process the milk right here on the farm. We sell pasteurized milk and raw milk and flavored milk. We have a little store here at the farm, and we're at 12 different locations where we're sending our milk. And right now, people are kind of wanting to get back to nature or whatever, and the raw milk sales are just out of this world. And Elizabeth has 5 children now, and the oldest one is definitely going to come back here. But for him to come back, we're going to have something for him to do. So they're looking, not till he gets out of school, but in the next 5 years, possibly putting a store in where we would sell ice cream and our products. And then we're hoping like local, like honey or vegetables or meat, you know, have like a farm store down there. But the ice cream is one thing that really is coming for the future. So I'm pretty sure about that. Well, this was originally we had a 1,600-gallon bulk tank. It took up most of the room. And we went from 1,600 gallons to 100 gallons. We pasteurize here, and this is our bottling machine over here. And this is how we cool the milk. It's full of cooled water, and it just circulates. We do our bottling in the evening. My son-in-law has a full-time job, and he's the main bottler. So we start about 7:30. Depending on what we have to do, it may go to 11, about 3 days a week. And we have made 52 different flavors. I mean, we mostly have 5 or 6 at a time, but that's the total we've had. And we're still coming up with, he's got 3 or 4 he's going to debut for the 250. Some color, like red, white, and blue flavors. Okay, the knob, it's the Knob Farm, and it's because of the hill up here, and it's the 4th highest in the county. And at one time, well, there is a geographical survey marker up there, and it also had a watchtower, a fire watchtower up there at one point. I can remember going up there, and there were a few of the boards left from it, but it's, you know, it's totally gone now. But the top of the knob is also sand. Like, I don't know, I'm not a geologist to know that, but they used the sand when they were building the road from Grampian to Kerwinsville in the concrete. So you can see places up there where they have mined the sand. But we had to apply for that through the state, and they came around and just looked at it, and it mostly is on looks. But then they went to our dairy where we were shipping our milk and made sure that all our tests were good, that we were shipping a good quality milk, and we did that 30 some years ago. That's the neatest part about being on the farm. I mean, I grew up with my granddad here, and my dad worked with them, and now Elizabeth and Brian did too, and her kids are here all the time, and just that connection with the generations working together, and that's that's what it's all about. And they're just as interested in the history as I am. So I know that we have totes and totes of stuff that I can't throw away, but it's historically, you know, quilts and just pictures, and they treasure that stuff. So I'm good for another generation anyhow. So